Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I'm just going to be making a tier list, except this is, well, this is instead of top 10, I figured let's go over all the decks, and this is also with the new set, with Twilight Masquerade. I don't know what all these decks are, also. I did not make this tier list. I'm looking at this. Yeah, but I know what most of them are, so that's good. And I'll talk about the new cards as well. Yeah, so this is did not make the tiers. Normally, I would make the tiers. I'd be S, A, B, C, D, F. That's how I usually do it. But we got this instead. S, 1, 2, 3. Don't play this. Yeah, and let's start off with Charizard with Pidgeot as S. I think everyone kind of knows that. You don't necessarily need to think it's the best, although most people think it's the best. But it's clearly really, really, really good. Um, there are some grass decks around, and they're not that common, and they're not that good. And outside of that, I mean, it's really good if you've played against it. It's incredibly versatile and powerful. I think it's a little overblown how good it is, but it is definitely in the top tier. Charizard Barrel. So this is kind of weird. It immediately gets weird. I usually group these two decks together, and oftentimes people play Pidgeot and Barrel in the same deck. Usually a 2-2 Pidgeot, 1-1 Barrel. That's relatively common. But I'll just chuck it in S. It's kind of the same thing. I do think Pidgeot's better, so I guess I'll put this in tier one. Um, they're pretty similar. Let's move on to. I guess let's do the Arceus decks because I see them here. So we got three Arceus decks. It looks like we got Arceus Giratina, which I think is a tier one deck. It's pretty good. Um, it can beat Charizard. It's I've made a video talking about every deck's biggest strength. And as I said, it's just very solid against like a lot of different decks. Also, this is not necessarily like a tournament tier list or a ladder tier list or anything like that. Just a general based on how good the decks are against each other and just in general. But yeah, I think Arceus V-Star with Giratina V-Star is a very solid deck. I don't think it's insane either. Again, we do see techs within Arceus. I'd say Arceus and Vulpix is a deck that is teched out sometimes. Also, there is a deck that's just Arceus without any other Vs or V-Stars or V-Maxes, so that's not here. Although that's not very common, and also, in my opinion, not that good. Arceus and Vulpix is also tier 1. I think Alolan Vulpix V-Star, it walls Pokemon with abilities. It's super good. Charizard's really good, and it walls Charizard. Of course, there's Gusting, but it's a really, really powerful Pokemon. It's one of the best walls in the game, at least right now, and pre the new set. Or when I say walls, I mean Pokemon that are immune, but I also mean Pokemon that, say, turn off abilities. Like you could call Klefki a wall. It's not a wall, really, but it functions similarly. Anyways, so I think that deck's good, and I think Argus Rouge is actually also tier 1. Um, I played it. It's pretty versatile. It's a little inconsistent. Actually, no, tier 2. It's kind of inconsistent. Um, it's certainly not a bad deck by any means, but there are games where you just like don't really get what you need. You need arm moves, you move energies from your bench to your active. It gets a lot of versatility, but things can go wrong. Specifically, arm moves can get knocked out. You do have arm moves EX, but you don't really have great one-shotting options. Arm moves EX, it's a 40 times multiplier for each energy attached. Starts at 40 base, so you need a lot of energy. To say like one-shot Charizard, you're just probably not doing that. And Armuge EX is like moderately tanky. It's pretty tanky, but it's still getting two-shotted, and most Pokemon are two-shotting Armuge, and most Pokemon are two-shotting Arceus as well. So it's not that amazing in terms of its tankiness. You do have Gouging Fire EX, which is really strong in terms of its damage output. It's just like really high, but it's also not, it's not like some insane Pokemon. You have Delphox V, kind of like Radiant Greninja. It's pretty good, but it's not like insane. So I think, I've been playing the deck a little and it feels right about here. Next up, we'll just go down the list. Actually, no, I'm going to do Lost Zone, then we'll go down the list. I feel like Lost Zone is a deck that we should talk about, especially once we're talking about, I guess Giratina V-Star is Lost Zone. Giratina. So Lost Zone Giratina, I think, is tier S. It's pretty good. I mean, it's very good. It's pretty consistent. I don't know. It's a deck I haven't seen and a deck I haven't played with much either recently or in quite a while. But whenever I do see it, it's always is pretty strong. It's always in games, even when it like is doesn't set up perfectly. And yeah, it has comeback potential. Giratina V-Star is really powerful, really difficult to deal with, relatively tanky. And then you do have options against Charizard. and you can punish weak setups because you can use Radiant Greninja. It's the best Radiant Greninja deck, I think, and you don't need it either. It's pretty nice. You could argue like this Lost Zone like basic box is like more Radiant Greninja focused, but yeah. Also with the basic box, you don't have that like one-shotting potential. You just struggle. So in this deck, I think it's gonna be tier one. It still is really good potentially. I think people aren't like really playing it too much. They're playing it some, but they haven't really improved the deck list in a while either. It's definitely one of those decks that has a lot of potential that people just haven't been playing around with. Um, I don't know, people are running like Hoopa, which I know, or Hoopa EX. I know Hoopa EX like has value, but um, there are a lot of Pokemon that just seem pretty mediocre. Maybe it is the best it can get, but it has, I think it has potential to be tier S versus the Giratina build is more straightforward and more optimized generally. And not like optimized, but because especially as we've seen with Charizard, there's so much room for improvement as time develops. Like Charizard's changed a lot. The general Charizard lists have changed a lot since it came out, and as I said, like people are running Pidgeot and Barrel before, or now, and like weren't really running before, but yeah, I think Lost Zone box is like it's good, but it's not insane. Assuming Gudra V-Star Lost Zone, I don't see this deck ever, to be honest. I don't think I've seen this deck since rotation. I don't know when the last time is I've seen it. Honestly, it's not a particularly great deck because it lacks that high damage output of most decks in the game. Um, it's not like bad. Doing Gudra V-Star is obviously it's a tank. It takes less damage, has high HP, no weakness, and a healing V-Star power, but like it's not insanely good. I played against it in the past and it's not great. It's kind of slow and you don't have this really high payoff because there's a lot of gust. So and I also don't think it's as good as the Lone Vulpix V-Star. Lone Vulpix V-Star walls more and can hit through stuff and it's just like really nice, especially when paired with Arceus. The tiers aren't ordered by the way either, but I could actually move Arceus Lone Vulpix V-Star down. I will. It's a really great wall. It's like an insanely good walling Pokemon. It's better than Hisuian Good V-Star, but I think you do want really high damage output in the current. You want to be able to one-shot Charizard, and none of these decks can really. I mean, they have ways, but they're not played honestly. Next, going along the list, we have Arbok EX with Unfair Stamp. Wait, what is this Unfair Stamp? Is this a proxy? So Unfair Stamp, it's kind of like Roxanne, but if it's an ace spec, if one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn, then you shuffle, draw 5, your opponent shuffle draws 2, and then Arbok EX, I believe it, I don't remember if it discards 2 random cards from the hand, it shuffles them back into their deck. But anyways, it removes them, so they will have a 0-card hand. That's kind of insane, but it's also a stage 1 EX for 3 energy, and it's like 1 item, and that's it. Like that's literally the whole game plan. So if they like get the barrel before you do this, like your opponent can literally just like pass a bunch of turns and you're gonna lose. So yeah, this deck's not good. I did not put it in. I had to put it in tier 2 to talk about it, not to play it. It's not good. So yeah. I don't actually know. I've not played it. It's not out yet, but I haven't like seen people really talking about it. The concept is like kind of funny, but it does not seem very good. It seems like your opponent, like you win if your opponent quits, but if they or if they like don't really know what they're doing, which will happen, right? It will happen, but that's what you're relying on. If that happens, you're in a pretty good position. But if they like literally your opponent could get off to like a mediocre start and then you lose because their start is not good enough, which is kind of absurd because if they don't take the knockout like that early knockout, then well, you can't really do anything. You can mess with their hand, you can do some stuff, but it's not great. um, yeah, they'll give you star. This actually run a big tournament recently, but it's tier 2. It's not that good, obviously. It has major consistency issues, and its upside, it's like not that good. For the fact that you like need 5 energy for the V-Star power, you could argue it's like 2 prizes for free, which is pretty like really good, but um, that's it. Like essentially, that's the whole deck is one Dialga V-Star. You're maybe powering up another one, but probably not. Or if you are, it's like late. And then of course you can always just have your like Matangs knocked out early, which usually happens to be honest. Or you don't draw what you need because you play a lot of energies and you have a lot of moving pieces. We're gonna talk about future box later, or future hands or whatever. The one with like lots of lightning energies, and that deck has some consistency issues because it plays high energies, but it's also all basics. So you can kind of get by with it, but you do still have games where you brick. But you have this with Dialga. Of course, the upside's really high. It is probably the highest upside deck in the game. I just looked at some of the decks and like, what's going on here? But yeah, it's pretty. Um, it's a pretty like solid deck. It's a fun deck. I'd say it's like a fun deck. Um, I don't think it's a deck I'd like. If you want to win lots of games and not lose, then like it's not the deck for you because you're just gonna, you'll get lucky and win lots, and you'll get unlucky and lose lots. Um, yeah. Also, it's not like a very, in my opinion, not a super skillful deck from the lists I've seen because usually they don't have too much going on. I mean, there is obviously some like skill required to play the deck, and if you are better, you will, get better results. But um, compared to like Lost Zone or Charizard Pidgeot or probably some of the like pretty much all the other decks except for probably the Arbok deck, which is you just Arbok. Um, they have more options versus Dialga V-Star. You just don't have the options because you don't draw enough cards and like just don't have them. It's not a terrible deck. I said it was like really like the way I described it made it seem really bad. It's not really bad. It has high upside. Um, yeah, no, it's a fine deck, but not like a super top tier deck. Blissey EX, I actually don't know what this deck is. Blissey EX, it's a tank. It's 300 HP. If you can see, it's kind of small, but it's 300 HP. Does 180 for 3, draws like till 6, I think, and then you can like move basic energies around. I don't actually know what this deck is though. Because there are different ways to play it. There's Ogre Pond. I actually cover this in like the most recent podcast episode with Uncommon Fossil. We talked about I think one Blissey deck which ran Ogre Pond EX. Then we also mentioned a deck with Monkey Dory. Um, yeah. I mean, I think it's fine. It's probably not very good though. It's like all right, kind of funny. I guess I'll put in tier two. As I said, I don't know actually. I don't exactly know what deck this is. So if someone knows, um, I think this tier list might have been made by Zapdos TCG. I don't remember. I just found it on Tier Maker. It could be made by someone else, but if anyone knows what the Blissey EX deck, like what it means here, if it's quad Blissey, I don't think it's quad Blissey EX. If it's quad Blissey EX, that seems bad. That would be in the don't play this. Um, but if it's like a Blissey deck with like some different options, I'll put it in tier three. I don't think it's particularly amazing. I think the Pokemon has potential as like a tech option, as like a secondary attacker or something, because it is very versatile. It's a really cool card, but also it's not like it's not super good by any means. It has high HP, it can tank, you can share and scare. It has some nice options. I'll put it in tier two, I guess. Next, we got Blood Moon Ursaluna EX with Fortress EX. Fortress EX knocks itself out. Blood Moon Ursaluna EX is like absurdly good. It's probably yeah. So this is with a new set. So Lost Zone, I forgot Lost Zone gains Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. Actually, every deck does. So that bumps every deck up one tier. I'm actually gonna move Lost Zone to S. I changed my mind because I forgot this was like this is that they have the new cards. I hope there's not any other new cards that I'm forgetting that are super important to these cards, these decks. And this is like there are a bunch of Darkness EXs revealed recently. They are not in this set, so Charizard doesn't get the buff there. But Blood Moon Ursaluna EX is like absurdly broken in my opinion. It's like really good. Um, but Fortress EX isn't good. It's Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. It's essentially Radiant Charizard. It's not a Radiant Pokemon, but it's a two-prizer. It has more HP. There's a few different things going on there, but it's mostly just Radiant Charizard. And then the idea is, oh, I need to give up prizes like Fortress EX. This like seems really bad. I feel like you just like what this seems bad. So I'm gonna just put this in don't play this. If someone has more clarity, if it's actually something more than that, um, then it could be good. But yeah, this is like Fortress EX is not a good Pokemon because it knocks itself out and accelerates a bunch of energy, but you don't even need the energy. You need the energy or to get knocked out. But so now you powered up your Blood Moon Ursaluna EXs, which is like nice, I guess. But also you just given up two prizes, so now you're losing. Best case scenario, if you take a knock, like you could knock out a VMAX. I don't know. You don't do enough damage, but like you're probably not doing that. You're knocking out at most a two prizer, and so then you're even on prizes. because you knocked out the fortress. So this seems pretty terrible. Blood Moon Ursaluna, yeah, super broken. It's really good in Lost Zone. Could actually move for soon Gudra Vistar up, but it does I believe 240 for 5 colorless, and I think you can't use that attack again next turn. Next we got Diplin Thwacky. This deck, Diplin attacks twice. It cannot use TMs. Well, it cannot double up on TMs, but because of the wording. But Diplin, you go ahead and you use an attack. It does like 20 for each of your bench Pokemon. I think it's Do the Wave. So 20 for each of your benched. This can do 100, but then you do it twice, so it's like 200. Single prize, stage 1 grass, and you have this ability. And then Thwacky has this ability that if you're active, has the ability that Diplin has. You can search your deck for a card every turn. I think Thwacky is like really, really good. In a few days, I'm going to be up, or maybe I already did. A Swim Freely with Thwacky seems like really funny. So, yeah, but I think Thwacky is really good. I don't think this deck is very good, though. I'm going to put it in tier 3. I don't think it's complete trash, but I also don't think it's very good. I've looked at Japanese tournament results. I've actually looked at this deck a lot because I keep looking at Thwacky. It's not like it's appearing all over the place, though, which is not usually a good sign. So it's not like an amazing deck. Dragapult EX, there's actually like 5 to 10 different ways to play this deck, but we'll just say it's the best one. I'm going to put in tier 1. It's not ordered. So here, it's very good. It's seeing a lot of play in Japan. Fundamentally, it's really powerful because it's 200 to the active, it's 6 damage counters anywhere you want on your opponent's benched. But it's a stage 2 multi-prizer, and this attack cost is Fire Psychic, so it's kind of really hard to pay. The reason there's so many ways to play is because you can't just use like regular attachments. It's not as easy as Charizard EX. So it's kind of clunky. It's not like super clunky, but it's not super easy either. I think it's a really cool looking deck. I guess. I think it might not be good for the meta because if you played with Dragapult VMAX back in the day, this was actually a while ago now, really like a year and a half ago, I guess. But oh no, people didn't play it a while. It was like a bunch of years ago. Um, it wasn't fun to play against, right? It was a spread-based deck. It's a spread-based deck that is just annoying for single prizes, or setup-based decks, which is almost every deck in the game. Or it's most decks. It will knock out your Comfies on the bench, Charmanders, Bidoof, sorry. You do need some extra damage, but there are ways to do extra damage. Not super easy, but not that hard either. And yeah, but I think it's pretty good. Again, it's kind of like Dialga V-Star, where it has really high upside, actually lower upside than Dialga, but much lower downside as well. But it still has more downside than the average deck, being a stage 2 multi-prizer with a really weird energy cost. Next we come to Frostlass. I have no idea what this deck is. Frostlass, for those of you who don't know, or I have an idea of what this deck is, but I'm not 100% sure. But Frostlass isn't a Pokemon. It's a stage 1. It has an ability during Pokemon checkup, put 1 damage counter on each Pokemon and play with an ability other than Frostlass. This is really interesting. It's like Shrine of Punishment, or there are some other cards like it that I'm not super familiar with, but it's like Shrine of Punishment. Which it's you just damage in between turns. It's a damage source, but it's not an attacker, meaning that you have different attacking options. Potentially Mawile is one that was like played, and then there's also Monkey Dory that like it moves damage. So you damage your opponent's Pokemon, and then you damage from your Pokemon, and then move the damage from your Pokemon to your opponent's Pokemon. So you do extra damage to their Pokemon. It's a little weird, but it's pretty cool. You can use Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. I said that Pokemon was super broken. It is. Yeah, Frostlass is like alright. I don't think it's gonna be super good as it's like uh, I don't I have no idea. This deck looks so fun. Frostlass is probably one of my favorite cards from the set, but I think it's tier 3. I could see it being bumped up to tier 2. Again, I said Alolan Vulpix Vita are super good, lots of abilities in the game, and we'll talk yeah, I guess we'll talk about that later with Control. There's a new Walling card. Oh, wait, yeah, no, that's in Lost Zone. There's a bunch of new cards from the set for Lost Zone. So, yeah, I definitely feel good putting it in Tier S. There's Okidogi, and there's Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX, which is like an insane wall. So, Lost Zone has a bunch of new tools, so I think it's going to be really good, which I'm excited about. I think Lost Zone's fun. I'm not a big fan of the way it's ran now. I'm not a big fan of Iron Hands EX, Hoopa EX, Roaring Moon EX. I feel like they're just not so fun. I don't know. That's obviously entirely subjective. It's not like they're bad, but Iron Hands EX I just never managed to power up because it's 4 energy for its most important attack, and Roaring Moon EX. I mean that's like fine, but whatever. And then Hoopa EX. I don't know. I don't like it. It's fine. I don't like the way it looks, I guess. But it's like an incredibly mediocre Pokemon as well. But I think Lost Zone with the Okidogi, with the which Okidogi is not super good. I don't really need to talk about it because it's not that good right now. But it's a fun Pokemon. And then Cornerstone Masquerade Ponyx, who walls. Its ability. It's a basic, but the ability walls basics from doing damage. It's kind of like Lone Vulpix V-Star, but it's not an attack, and also it's on a basic, and it has almost as much HP. It's kind of absurd. I think it's another insane card from the set, and you can put it in Lost Zone as you can with any basic. Anyways, moving on to Greninja EX. This card's pretty hyped. I'm gonna put in tier two. It's like spread damage, and it does like damage with your active and searches for stuff. It's like a card you can look into it separately. It's not that good. Some people are acting like it's super insanely good. I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of like Rapstar through VMAX or Togekiss VMAX or Radio Greninja. I don't know. It's like a bunch of different cards. It's pretty all right, but its damage output is like a little short of what you're kind of looking for. It's not that bad, but it's a little weird. And it's just not a particularly inspiring deck in my opinion. I know some people think this deck's absolutely insane. I don't think that, but it's a pretty cool deck. I could see it in tier three, but no, I don't think so. Also, my tiers, I don't know. Some people would put like I don't know. Obviously, some people would change it, but it's all opinion based. But there's a chance my tiers aren't the same as how other people would divide up tiers. So I want to let people know that. Like 20 minutes into the video. But oh, by the way, subscribe if you're enjoying it, and like, comment down below your thoughts as well. I'm interested in hearing that, especially about some of like the newer cards, which I think are really cool, but also the meta now. Next we have Iron Thorns EX. This is, I guess, straight to Quad Iron Thorns EX. So Iron Thorns EX is a Pokemon that its ability is like Path to the Peak for your opponent. Turns off Pokemon with Full Box's abilities, I believe is what it does for your opponent. So it's like really annoying. Its attacks 140 for 3, and you move energy to the bench. It's like you can power it up. Um, oh, I think it doesn't turn off future Pokemon, so you could use Iron Crown EX. I could be wrong on that. Well, it doesn't turn off your own at the very least. So it's interesting. I don't think it's very good though. It's like really boring because you just put a bunch of Iron Thorns and like ability lock your opponent. It's like good against Charizard, and I guess it's okay against Arceus and Radiant Queen. I mean, it's not that good, quite frankly. I could see it tier two, but I just don't think it's a very good deck. I mean, I think it's better than these tier three decks as well. I'll put it in tier two. It's like whatever. It's a super boring deck. It'll catch people off guard, but it doesn't do that much, quite frankly. So if you just kind of, if the person playing against this just kind of like one doesn't get like absurdly unlucky and just kind of does their thing, then they should be fine. And it's not like it completely obliterates Charizard either, because they can just attach two energies, right? So it's all right, but yeah. And not a super great deck. I'll put in tier three. Then we got Hisuian Zoroark V-Star with whatever. You could run it with Dodrio. Of course, you're probably running Gengar Damage Pump, Gape Bog like all the time. You could run Frostlass. I probably wouldn't do that, but you could. This doesn't. It's just not that good. I could see it tier two. I thought this card was gonna before it came out. I thought it was gonna be really good, and it wasn't. It was like interesting, but it was overshadowed by Lost Zone from the set Lost Origin. But it's a pretty interesting V Star. It like does damage for your damage. Fundamentally, it's just a very weak deck in terms of HP. It's not like super weak, but it always feels super weak in my opinion. Um, in terms of damage output. It can win. It's like a mediocre deck. I think it's worse than a lot of the other decks in the game though, by a bit of a by like a noticeable amount. It's not like unplayably bad, but why do you play it when you can play the other ones? And it's also, in my opinion, not that interesting, which isn't necessarily making its way into the tier list. But I don't really see much reason to play this, like when I could just play. I don't know. I think Arceus Armor is cool, and it's better. Next we got Luxray EX. I don't know too much about this deck. It's like disruption. I don't actually know like anything about the deck. It's a disruptive Pokemon, but it's not very good. It's not complete trash, I guess. But I'm gonna put it in the don't play this category. It doesn't seem very good. is like disruption, and it's like a pretty underwhelming disruption. You have another attack 250 for 2, and you might damage yourself or something, but it's not terrible, but it's not like I mean it's not good. I don't think it's good. I do think the Blood Moon Ursaluna Fortress deck is like really terrible. I don't think Luxray EX or Arbok EX decks are quite as bad, but I wouldn't really run any of these. And Luxray EX, it just doesn't have super high upside. And then we got some control decks. We got Pidgeot. I'll put Great Dust Mill here as well. Pidgeot control. Some people call this bird control, which is not right. There's a deck called bird control. Bird control has Decidueye EX and Pidgeot EX. I mean, you could like deck names are kind of subjective, but I feel like to be bird control, you need at least 2 birds, and it only runs Pidgeot, so I don't really think that counts. Pidgeot EX as well. If you run Pidgeot EX and Pidgeot V, maybe, but they usually just run Pidgeot EX. So anyway, the deck's like pretty good. I'll put it in tier 1. It's like annoying to play against. I played against it the other day. It's pretty versatile. It's pretty good. But yeah, I'm gonna pop it into tier 1. I don't think it's tier S. It has consistency issues. It can just not set up and then you just lose, and then it has like bad matchups. I also don't think Dragapult will end super well for you. Their energy is like they're feeling pretty fine on that. It's not amazing. You can potentially run them out of energy, but like they're just gonna kind of destroy you with attacking as well. The math does not seem good. It doesn't seem like completely unwinnable, but if they set up, then I don't see it ending super well for you. Charizard's a good deck, and with text, it's been able to kind of counter control and keep that at bay. And if it's just not good against Lost Zone, Arceus, another good deck, and there are other good decks that I haven't like mentioned yet, but it's pretty solid. And when I say it's like not super good against these decks, it's not terrible. Regular Slash Control, this deck's like not very good. People can beat it. It can win. It mostly wins. Honestly, speaking like tournament, it's not good. Especially in like tournaments, there's like weird rules that like hurt it. But um, in the ladder, it's like S. It's not S. It's like decent in the ladder. I'll pop it into tier 2, because people quit all the time. I can put it in tier 3, but it's better than the tier 3 decks, I guess. Um, Bed stack cards, of course, depends how well people play against it, because it's a relatively easy deck to play. You just Snorlax a bunch. Actually, yeah, no, tier 2 feels pretty good. There is a new, because you run Mimikyu to wall Vs and EXs, but then you run the new Cornerstone Mask Ogrepan EX to wall any Pokemon with an ability, which is really annoying to have to deal with. So I think it is pretty fair in tier 2. It's not tier 1, and it's not tier S, certainly, or tier 3. Great Duskmail is not very good in tier 3, especially it's glitched on live, or it's actually not glitched on live. Some people like the supporters are glitched on lives, but yeah, it's not very good. Regardless of the glitch, it's not a terrible deck. I've played against it some. I've lost to it, but yeah, it just doesn't really have the resources you kind of need to win the game, and you sometimes miss attacks, which is like not good. You need to hit every attack, and you still might lose. Um, So yeah, like you still probably lose if your opponent if things just go quote how they should, where each player just attacks every turn, you lose like every game. You're not that close to decking them out. It depends how your opponent plays as well. But if they play like reasonably and you don't get lucky, then you probably lose. Of course, you can boss trap things. Sometimes you can Mawile. You can Mawile, and I think Great Tusk in like within Pidgeot control or something is like a kind of an option, but no, probably not. I mean, not complete garbage. Tier 3 is certainly playable, but like not super great. Two Mask Ogrepan EX. There's a bunch of different ways to play this deck, I guess. Or wait, no, this is just Ogrepan, but this is probably Ogrepan Box. Ogrepan Box is not very good. It's tier 3. It is really just not super powerful. Its upside's moderate because of the Cornerstone Mask Ogrepan EX being insane, and the Wellspring, the Cornerstone, the fighting one, and then the Wellspring Mask Ogrepan EX, the water one is pretty good. The grass one's like all right, but not super great. It's like kind of weird. It's kind of like Zadu. If you played Zadu, it's kind of sketchy, kind of fun, but kind of sketchy. Um, and then the fire one's just not good. You can run it, but you might not. Um, but I mean, I think it has like some potential, but it's kind of not amazing. It lacks it lacks really high upside. Quite frankly, it doesn't like do that much damage, and it's all basic EXs, which means you need to go fast, but you're also not that fast, so it's not great. And then you have the item card to like switch around, but you only have 4 of that, and you might not get it when you need, so it's kind of scary. Zadu, I think, is tier 1. I said that I really like this stack. Obviously, you do have the your ability to annoy your opponent. You have I would highly recommend playing Scissor in the deck. Playing Bayonet is just like so sketchy, notably against like you can use it to punish certain things, but it's kind of risky. I think Espathra EX going in tier 1 is like pretty fair. It's not super insane. It's a very counter meta deck, but it's very solid. Good for EX. Similar idea. It's actually gets countered by certain stuff. It does some weird stuff, and Lost Vacuum is bad. GMing Tower in the next set probably not gonna be super great for it, but people won't play it that much either. So I think Guard was all right. It's seeing more play, getting more respect, and then I think it'll come back down and finally settle into like tier 1. Could even settle to tier 2. I don't see it being tier S ever. Again, I mean it was arguably tier S, but yeah. Masquerade, it's not very good. It's just not consistent really at all, and its upside is not super great. The big issue is consistency, though. It's just not a very great stage 2 deck. Chimpao is tier 1, and I'm going to put Lugia. I always group these two decks together. For the most part, they're like a little inconsistent. Lugia more so, but then you get really high value. You can kind of beat everything if things are going your way, but they're not always going your way. Lugia should win every matchup if it sets up, but it doesn't. Chimpao does not win every matchup if it sets up. It wins a lot, but it also will miss setups and will miss like knockouts in the middle of the game and stuff like that, and like miss stuff it kind of wants to do. So Chimpao can falter, but then Lugia should be able to win, but will just miss setups and will not set up turn 2 all the time. We got Palafin EX up next, and this one is it's a weird Pokemon. I think it's really good, but kind of weird. I haven't dived too much into it, but it's a tier 2 deck. You need to switch in and out, and then you switch out and then back in, but you do 250 for one. You have 340 HP on a stage 1 EX. It's absolutely absurd. It just needs so much switching, and you don't have a lot of like you can't use switch card, which is the big downside in my opinion, because switch card is obviously well you have switch right as a switch card, but switch card is really the only secondary option, and you can't use it. You do have I know you have like some cards, but they're not great, unfortunately. So I think Palafin has like potential to be very solid. Also, its damage output's like kind of weird. It's not exactly where you're looking to have it. It's not bad. I mean, it's just it does too much almost. So you're like, oh, I'm missing out on these higher damage thresholds. But as opposed to the moderate ones, like you're easily one-shotting two prize basics, which is like really good. And it's only one energy, but then you need lots of switching. I haven't seen too much stuff about it, but I think it's an insane card. It has like the best stat line ever, but then it has like an awkward ability where you can only get into play with an ability. Roaring Moon to Dunsparce, I don't think is that good. I don't think it's tier 3. I would consider putting in tier 3 if I don't like see it all the time and it doesn't like see a lot of results. But it does see like some results. So in tournaments, as I said, I don't pay too much attention to tournaments, but I pay some, and I do see that some people play. I know some people think this deck's insane. It's not. It's kind of inconsistent. Um, yeah, I feel like it like sneaks its way into tier 2. It's not a super great deck. I could see it lower, but yeah, it's not super consistent. It does have like high upside, I guess, with the Roaring Moon, but also Roaring Moon can get one shot by Charmander, which like isn't good. Obviously, you never want to be one shot by Charmander for Comfy or whatever. Goldengo is pretty good. I will put in tier 2. I think it's better than Roaring Moon EX. It feels kind of yeah. Roaring Moon sneaks his way in, but Goldengo is like pretty good. It's a solid deck, not an insane deck by any means, but it can like one shot everything, and it has some like tech options and various things going on, so it's solid. Miraidon, specifically this one says Raichu V, although I guess you don't have to run a lot. Certainly, you can just run Raichu. This deck is kind of whatever. I think tier 2's fair. It has like some burst, but I'm gonna drop it to tier 3. I wouldn't really recommend it over any other over this deck. I'll talk about the future decks. Miraidon is like just whatever. Miraidon EX, I should say. The future hands deck is tier 1. It has a lot of like burst options potentially, and then of course, well, it has Iron Hands. It can burst them to play with Electric Generator, but more importantly, it's just very solid. It can take lots of prizes, and it uses Iron Hands the best out of any deck in the game. And Miraidon, the baby Miraidon, the Dragon one is absolutely insane as well. I've been playing with this deck a lot because it's just easy. It's so easy, which is just really, really good for it. And like, so I just don't need to think, and I can. You don't. It's not like you don't think at all, but you don't need to think that much, and it just beats everything. Not everything, but it is able to capitalize on bad starts a lot of the time and just take early prizes and do a bunch of really good things. I would say it's at the like lower end of the tier one decks. I could see it in tier two, but it's pretty solid. And then Future Box is a tier two. No, I'll put it in tier three. I kind of group it in with this, like the Future Hands deck. They're kind of similar, but it's kind of like a spectrum of like, oh, how many Iron Leaves do I play? How many Iron Bundles do I play? How many like what do I play? Um, what energies do I play? But the toolboxy deck, it just doesn't have a lot of like great options. Then we'll go with the ancient box. I think this is tier two. A lot of people just like don't like that I don't like this deck, but it's not very good. It's not terrible by any means. I play against it all the time, and I've lost to it some, but um, I've still yet to be like see a game where I'm like, wow, that deck's really good. Like, wow, that has good potential. Like, yes, Roaring Moon is a single prize basic that hits potentially insane damage and has pretty good HP, but it usually doesn't hit that insane damage. It usually is not hitting as much damage as it needs to. You do sometimes have consistency issues as well. Where you can run out of attackers. I notice that happen a decent amount, honestly. It is. I play a lot of Spathrazado, and so then Roaring Moon is not good against that, but its damage output just isn't really that high. And oh, also like Iono, that's not good for it because it doesn't have any engine and it is a basic deck, like a basic single prizer. So you're getting knocked out all the time, and then you need basics every turn. You don't need evolutions, which is good because if you did, that would not end well. But yeah, Koraidon also just isn't super. I don't know. It's not really played much in the decks. It's usually played as like a one of or well, no, it's played in high counts, but it's usually played as like only two fighting energies, which you can search out. But it's kind of risky. I feel like people just don't attack with it very much because you are so focused on getting the Roaring Moon, or if you are focused on the Koraidon thing, you're not focused on the Roaring Moon, which actually might be better because like aiming for early knockouts as opposed to late knockouts. But I don't know. It just struggles to one-shot stuff ever. It's not a completely terrible deck, but yeah. Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks, it's not good. It just has high upside, but never reaches it essentially ever. Gouging Fire, the same thing. And then Bayonet Gardevoir is tier 2, I guess. I think it's bad. I don't think Bayonet and Gardevoir is like really any good, but Gardevoir EX is like a solid Pokemon, solid deck, so tier 2 seems fine. But anyway, that's my tier list. I figured I'd make one of these. I didn't really make one last week. I didn't make a top 10. This is my, wait, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I have 12. Um, this is my top 10. It's not 10 decks, it's 12 decks. But Charizard's one deck, and then Dragonpult's not out yet, so that's not in the top 10. So there you go. You got my top 10. I will actually order these. I'll do Charizard, Giratina. I guess Comfy. Lost Zone is not obviously. It's not so good. It's not necessarily top 10 right now. It's not as high as this, but whatever. Charizard, as I said, I'll move that to the back because it's not a unique deck, and same thing with Dragapult. I'd put Lugia, then Control, then it's like this. This seems fine. There you go. You got my top 10 decks. Realistically, Lost Zone would probably go like below Control or something. But yeah, there we go. That's my tier list, my top 10. No, it's not really a top 10. It was just kind of some stuff. But yeah, this is my tier list in the tiers. As I said, the tiers for the most part unordered. But obviously, I said whether I like decks or I didn't and stuff like that. But yeah, the new decks look pretty alright. They don't look super good either, but I think that's fine. I think Bliss EX has potential, and there are some decks not on this list that have potential. And like Lost Zone is kind of a new deck as well. Its attackers are getting reworked a lot. In my opinion, I think it'll play a lot differently. I think it'll play a lot more interestingly. But anyways, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.